One. Bing, bing, bing. We're live. It's the Modern File Scrum. It's a new Monday, a fresh week. Everything is possible. Will everything happen? Probably not everything. At least some things will happen this week. We have Stamatios, we have Nicola, we have Sam. What have I been doing? I've been switched back to the Anthony Powell Society project today. I've been working on MS Access. I've made reasonable progress. I have beaten my head on some Visual Basic, and it now works. It works. My head stopped working, but there you go. I'm now just working through admin things. The two kind of key blockers for me is I haven't finished the Adventures Trustee report, and I haven't updated all the data now that we have the new data model deployed for Website 1. I did do some pairing yesterday with Marion, and we started on the private event feature for Website 1, so that's quite nice to get that started off. I think that's going to be an important and valuable feature for sustainability for our adventures going forward. Things happening today. We've got the Elixir mob coming up. Then we've got beta starter autograder client meeting. Then we've got the Website 1 meeting. Then we've got the Agile Ventures community meeting with our first weekly contributor awards to recognize great contributions from people around the world. Yeah, that's me. Nicola, how are things going with you?
Yeah, on Website 1, I think that on Saturday, Saturday, I did a fix to the Pivotal Tracker API. The shell. They did I think that from version 4 to version 5 it changed like a lot of things, so you will find like 12 files that I've changed, and mocks to the requests that we were well, not mocks, we were stubbing some requests, so I had to change the JSONs for that request that we were doing.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is working, but the coverage is saying that our code coverage decreases by 1% or something like that. So I don't know. I tried to find where it was to try to increase it, but I don't know. And after that, I think that this week we will be working with Stella on the given for the newsletter feature.
Right. Give me just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can just take it. As long as the papers, if it's all okay, he should check for the right paper. Yeah, great. Sorry about that. We just got the a package being picked up. Yes, and so you're saying you're going to work with Stella, and that all sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, we'll have a look. Maybe at the end we'll have a little look at this pivotal tracker thing on the coveralls. There's definitely some more things to say about that. Thanks, Nicola. Let's go on to Stamatios. How are things going with you?
Everything's going good. I was working on a local support issue for the breadcrumbs. So the task is complete with the exception of the code climate issues. I've been running my head ragged with many different approaches, but it seems like every approach that I go to, the code climate issues just keep increasing.
Okay.
So
it's kind of a whack-a-mole thing. Yeah, well, we can look at that together as well. Yeah. That's your main block at the moment, is it?
That's all. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. It seems to be. It's going up. Goodness. Okay. Yeah. Well, good show. Well, that's our Scrum. Yeah, Scrum done. Scrum done. We're now in the after Scrum. It's the after Scrum. Yes. So upgrading the Pivotal Tracker API. Yeah. Fair enough. And so we've got now. Interesting. The token is there in the repo rather than the end. But yeah, you've just been changing. Yeah, the names of these things. Yeah, I mean, if the tests are all passing, that's fine. Okay, and there's sort of
for example, you find one of the tests. No, I think it doesn't matter.
yeah. No, that's. I mean, I think, and I'm not aware of anybody really using this. I mean, we could, it would be nice to support better integration with people. The interesting thing actually here, I'll just mention that people don't necessarily realize, but so if we take an individual project, you can go from the project page, if we jump in there to local support, and we can go and obviously you know this already, Nicola, but so we've got this activity button here. Which I guess people, if they were moving about in the site, they might click here. I'm not aware of people well, it'd be good to know. Maybe people do click through on the anyway. That's this. Okay. But yeah, so I think that's fine. I guess then the issue that you had on it was that the coveralls, and I, like I say, I'm very suspicious of coveralls. Like if we go here and look at this, where it says, for example, it's telling us that coverage has gone down by 42% in the subscriptions helper, and then we click through to try and see this, it's now suddenly telling us, right, that none of these things are being called, and that seems completely unrelated to anything you've done in the pull request, right? Which means that I'm tempted here just to merge this in and say, this is another, we chalk up another thing to say, I mean, it's not necessarily coveralls' fault, it's like something. Either coveralls is just weird, or our configuration of coveralls is incorrect. And I think you were looking at that as well, weren't you, Nicola? Did you do another pull request?
I didn't do another pull request, but the thing is that
you made some comments.
Now, the configuration that we are using now, it is working. The thing is, we let the token that we were using in our local repository, and I don't know if that is working, because anyone, for example, that maybe want to track that file in the history of our repository, and I don't know, I don't think that is going to happen, but if someone wants to do it, it will be an issue in our security.
Right. And anyway, so we removed that file from our tracking system. Of course, people who had that out, I mean, the implication seemed to be that, you know, somehow the coveralls data that was being pushed up was related to somebody's test run and not the latest test run or something like this. You know, this is maybe coverage data that's not, like, it's maybe accurate for somebody's run of the test suite, but it's not accurate for the run of the test suite that we will. So I guess the question here is there something that we can do to coveralls to fix this? I mean, I guess one thing would be, you know, open a ticket with the coveralls staff and just say, look, it just doesn't, you know, what are we doing? We could ask them what we're doing wrong. And the other one is switch to code climate coverage.
Yeah, one of the other things that we can do is to switch to code climate, or we can have it both at the same time, because
okay,
it could work only for the test coverage, and we can try it and see for a couple of weeks how they work. And
right. Coveralls config, 2 open support tickets with coveralls, 3 add code climate coverage. Well, if you could take the lead on doing any of these, I think particularly opening the support ticket with coveralls, that would be great. Sure. So and then what I'll do in the meantime is just I'll merge in that pivotal tracker one. Well done for getting that done, which is now lost it. Here it is. Yep. Let's push that in. Okay. Yeah. And of course you can potentially send the a link to this and its associated coverall and say, hey, well, you know, we merged it in because this made no sense, but can you help us work out why these things are not? I mean, you know, it's like it's supposed to be all linked to the commit values. I don't know if it's. I mean, I wonder if it's related now to that we're doing a double test run. You know how we run.
Yeah, because we try a second time.
Yeah, we try a second time, and maybe on the second, like maybe the first time, some tests fail, and when those tests fail, we lose coverage for them, and who knows?
Good idea. Yeah. Maybe.
And the interesting thing is code climate coverage on local support. We have the second test run with code climate on local support, and that doesn't seem to encounter the same problem. So anyway, that's something to look into. Cool. Okay. So that's your things there. We can see the new This is the new, yeah, stuff. This is actually to do with private events. It's sort of basically we expanded it actually so that you can select make an event, and then you can say this is an event for premium face-to-face members, premium mob members, premium members, and so on.
Okay.
And I see Ben's been working on his thing there, but he's not in the Scrum, and Stamatius is. So let's look at Stamatius's thing. And yes, so I saw that you were kind of busy getting these things all sorted. We've now got, so this is in the application controller. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you've pulled some things into the application controller there. It's got bigger. So what is old Code Climate complaining about here? Let's have a look. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so it's complaining about the number of arguments that we have and the complexity of these methods. Yes. Okay. Right. Yep, I see that. Okay. So now let's just look at where these are being. So you've got those in the application controller, and we've got now. So yeah, for example, there's add breadcrumb, events path, add breadcrumb, and so what's the context in which? Okay, so add breadcrumb then calls the application controller add organization breadcrumbs. Right. Yes, I see. So I guess my suggestion here would be that if we're pulling kind of complex stuff out of the events controller and into the parent application controller, we probably don't, we can probably save ourselves some space by, instead of calling a class method on application controller, we can just call add, we can just call like add bread, we can call something on some other kind of like, organized breadcrumbs on the, on the parent class. Do you know what I mean?
Right. That would be for the organizations controller.
Well,
speaking of,
yeah. Well, I mean, here I happen to be in the organizations controller, but I think that but any of the controllers, like this pattern here that you've got, and forgive me because I don't know what background you have in computer science or anything to do with these things. So my sincere apologies if I'm selling you things that you already know. But yeah, if we have, I think rather than open RubyMine, it's probably, if I can just get this to over here. If we have, let's say that we've got our application controller like so, and then we've got our events controller, and that's extending the application controller. And like so, and so I think the model that you've, and I've only glanced through the code quickly, I haven't done a full review, but it's looking like you're doing something like we've got what we would call a class method in here.
Right.
And I'm just paraphrasing, whatever it's happens to be called with various methods. And so as I think you're clear, what you're then doing is that you're calling that by reference to the kind of the class name like so.
Correct.
So that's that's one way in which this entity can kind of speak to or refer to code in this other entity, right? But so, and that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. It's one like architectural choice. However, it would be pretty rare to do that in the context in which we've already we've got this inheritance hierarchy here, talking about a relationship between the events controller and the application controller. So what would be more? So we'll just put in there that this is like it's one way of doing it, And so this is like one relation here. And if it was the case that we didn't have this inheritance relationship set up, that would be quite a common. Like, for example, if a controller is talking to a service, it might well operate like that. However, when we've got the inheritance relationship, what's much more likely, one relation, this is another two, what we might be tempted to do is just call the method directly, like so. And then what we would have is that we would have the method up here as an instance method on this class. Does that make sense?
Well, give me 1 second.
The thing is that if it doesn't find the method defined in the class where the method is, like for example the second and all relation, it will go to the parent and it will try to find that method in the parent. And if it defines the method, it will just trigger that.
Right. Definitely. But I think. So I just need to see the screen real quick. I think my issue is yeah. So basically, you're saying the same structure, by basic inheritance rules. I don't need to call the. I don't need to use the first relationship that we're talking about, but basically, it would be the same structure essentially.
Yeah, and it would. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, and there's nothing. This one will still work. It just ends up being a bit more verbose. It means that you have to prefix.
I got you. Yep.
This there. So that's one thing. I mean, and that's probably not going to massively reduce code climate, but I think it's good. Like if we have this relationship set up, and particularly if we've got some sort of functionality that we want to make available to all of the different children. Like, so there's also going to be, there's like the organizations controller.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, the organization controller, as it is here, can also call application controller dot or what have you. But like, if we're saying, we've pulled, the sort of refactoring style that we often might find ourselves in is, we see that there's duplicated code in two of the children of the parent entity, 2 or 3 or more, or even that it's just in one, but we're anticipating we're going to be using it in all of those different children, then we want to pull it up into the parent controller, and then we can refer to it, kind of by name there. So that's one thing. So then when I look at these things here, I think there are things like, for example, action name there. I think you don't have to pass that as a parameter.
I tried to do that. I was trying to access that in the application
controller.
Yeah, and I wasn't getting any result with either action or action underscore name.
Okay, so I guess I might be wrong there. I would have thought that there should be a mechanism for fun. So, for example, if I do like Rails application controller get action name, even if it's just in the params field, controller action name to string. So yeah, so this is doing its controller action. So the controller action.
But I was only calling it. So I was only using the action underscore name once I was calling the. I don't know the proper terminology for the approach that I took.
Yeah.
But after I had called application controller dot whatever the method is, and then try to access the action underscore name in the application controller, I wasn't getting the results. I wasn't getting anything actually for that variable.
Yeah. So what it was, were you trying to call like application controller dot action name? Like
no. No, I was calling. So like in the example you have below, application controller dot add underscore org dot underscore breadcrumbs.
Uh-huh.
Once I called that inside the actual application controller method, I was trying to access the action underscore name just by
Okay.
itself.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought that you could refer to action name here if we were doing this in a, I mean, it's possible that you wouldn't be able to refer to it in this context because this is a class method. And so I think all of the things in here are going to be class methods by default.
Okay.
So I think if we set up the relation to make this an instance method, I believe you'll be able to refer to action name here.
Okay. Let me try.
Although of course I might be wrong there. But even if you can't get it via the action name, it's going to be available, you know, in the params hash, which the application controller is going to have access to.
Okay, so it was possible that it was the self dot whatever the method name is when I was accessing it, which prevented it from that accessing that action underscore name.
Indeed, because we've got this thing of when we do this kind of call and this kind of relation, what we're doing is we're kind of saying, right, I mean, it's almost like this method, you could see it as being outside. You can see it as being outside of here, and that this is what we're doing is we're just namespacing a method by itself, right? Mm-hmm. So what this means is this is going to have access to other class methods that are in this namespace, but it's not going to know anything about the particular instance of application controller that's kind of underpinning the particular instance of events controller that we're in. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So again, I mean, these are both perfectly reasonable ways to talk to other objects, but this one, yeah, far more common here and will allow us, I think, access to all of the instance variables and methods associated with the particular instance of the application controller, which is a particular instance of the events controller that we're currently in.
And perhaps that's probably another reason why I wasn't able to access the breadcrumbs, which is why I had to pass that as well.
Yeah. And so I again, like any of these instance variables, in principle, you should be able to access in the parent class.
Right.
So, and anyway, I mean, there's various bits and pieces. I think I'll need to leave it there. If you want to book a pairing session, I'd be very happy to kind of like, you know, we could sit down and like do this together and catch it on the debugger and, you know, get into the nitty gritty. But hopefully that's got you some directions if you don't want to book a session with me.
Well, I would love to, but I just want to give it one more try.
Oh, please do. I think that's the, yeah. Excellent. Yeah, particularly if you feel that you've gained an insight there that you didn't have before, then definitely do give it a try yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give that a try, but I think one of the other issues is just the climactic. I don't know the name of the
code climate.
The code climate, but the particular issue there was some climactic.
Yeah, it was telling you some like other things of like the items of general complexity.
Yes.
But I would say, oh, go on.
I was just gonna say I can give it another try, just see if I can try to do anything with it, and then I'll hit you up if I need any other assistance.
Yeah, see how you go. I mean, I think, you know, like I wouldn't worry about. I mean, unless we can certainly go through it in a session, psychomatic complexity. It's basically, you know, just complaining about any kind of ifs. It's like different branches through the individual code. But yeah, it's probably not like trying to solve these things individually doesn't really make sense. The important thing I think here is to go with the grain of how we, you know, talk to our application controller parent. And that will probably allow a lot of those things to just disappear. But we'll see.
Awesome.
All right. Great stuff. Good to see you both.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. Nice one. Well, I'll maybe see you folks later on. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your Monday.
You too.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye for now.
Take care.